Think back to when you were 15. If you were like many teenagers, you probably did some foolish things you came to regret. That's just part of growing up. But sometimes those youthful pranks have unintended consequences. Take it from a guy who knows. He's been haunted for years by his own teenage prank. And as Bill Ritter discovered, it changed his life and many others.
I told you I want a divorce.
I swear to God, woman, if you leave me, you won't get a penny.
On the set of a soon-to-be-released movie.
A little bit over here.
Rolling. I never wanted you.
The scene, a little boy and his hateful father.
I wish you were never born.
When the boy becomes a teenager, he will kill a man and go to prison. The crime will haunt him for the rest of his life.
I don't want to be here anymore.
But this movie's plot is not fiction, and this actor's real-life character is the film's director. His name is Peter Wade, and this is not just his film. This is also the story of his life.
Of all the vivid images I have in my head, the most vivid one is my hand on that switch and falling down and just wishing I got back up and just turned it the other way.
35-year-old Peter Wade is just now coming to terms with what he did on that fateful night 20 years ago. July 7th, 1982, along this same stretch of railroad tracks in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. It's a little town, about a half hour outside New York City. Peter was 15 years old then, just hanging out with a group of friends.
I think we were kids just always looking for trouble, bent on destruction.
Most nights, they'd drink beer, smoke a little marijuana. They'd roughhouse, maybe even throw a few bottles at the passenger trains that whizzed by. But on that night, their pranks turned deadly.
Someone yelled, "Hey, you know, let's throw the switch," and the rest of us said, "Okay," and myself and another guy pulled the switch.
They had timed it perfectly. Within seconds, a passenger train going 60 miles an hour flew off the rails. It hurtled out of control towards the wall of a factory.
I remember a lot of rocking. The train, yeah, back and forth.
Joey Sandora was on the train that night. He was 14 back then. He had been invited to ride along and sit in the tiny control cab at the front, right next to the engineer, Jack Duffy.
I could remember the wheels of the train screeching so loud, I guess trying to stop. I remember Jack telling me, "Get down, it was time to get down."
In the seconds before the impact, engineer Jack Duffy had to make a critical decision. He could save himself by quickly getting out of the control cab, or he could stay and try to protect young Joey. And that's what he did. He threw himself on top of the boy, trying to shield him from the collision. The train hit the wall so hard that it didn't stop until it was 60 feet inside the factory.
He just laid on top of me and he started bleeding. And I remember, you know, hearing, even feeling his breath up against me, and then there was no more.
If John Duffy hadn't thrown himself on top of you, what would have happened to you, John?
I probably wouldn't be here telling you the story.
Peter Wade didn't see any of this. After he pulled the switch, he ran back home to his upstairs bedroom.
Did you hear anything as you were running? Did you hear it derail?
You know, maybe a little bit.
What do you mean a little bit? How can you hear a train derail?
Well, because, you know, I was drunk, I was high, I was running through the woods with the falling down, and, you know, it's like, you know, I'm not sure what I heard.
But it didn't take long before everyone heard what happened.
I went up to my bedroom and turned the television on, and it was then that I realized what I had done.
Because it was on the news? What did it say?
It said one man is dead and, you know, at least one more injured.
The crash was horrific, and amid the wreckage, paramedics found the body of the engineer, 50-year-old Jack Duffy. He had been crushed to death. Trapped underneath him was little Joey Sandora, critically injured.
Probably one of the sickest moments of my life. I wanted to just throw up immediately at realizing what I had done.
If the train had been full, the crash could have injured or even killed hundreds of people. But fortunately, there were only 7 passengers on board, and somehow they and the 2 crew members managed to escape with just minor injuries. Now, later that night, police arrested all 5 of the teenagers involved. They got a break because someone saw the boys running away from the tracks. Peter Wade and 2 other boys were held most responsible. They became some of the first juveniles tried as adults in New Jersey. This was big news in the small town of Fair Lawn. Wade served just 22 months of his 5-year sentence for manslaughter. He was 20 when he got out. He went to college and then managed to find an entry-level job on Wall Street. Soon, Peter Wade was making $1 million a year as a stock analyst. He had left behind the middle-class neighborhood in New Jersey, crossed the Hudson River, and carved out a fashionable life for himself in New York City. On the surface, it seemed he was living the good life, but inside, he was tortured by guilt.
I felt like an actor, that I was there putting on a performance and that hopefully it was convincing enough that nobody would really find out who I was, which was just a despicable human being. And that's when really I had to take some action.
And so he did, and he radically changed his life. He quit Wall Street. After years of intense psychotherapy, Wade no longer wanted to make money. He wanted to make movies, and he would start with the story he felt compelled to tell, his own.
Hey, man, what time is it?
It's 4 o'clock, why?
The film is called Tracks, and Peter Wade financed, wrote, and directed it.
You want to take a ride with me?
Wade says it was a challenge, leading these actors through his own painful life and unspeakable childhood secrets.
The right path doesn't have to be the hardest.
In this prison scene, Wade's character is thrown into solitary confinement, and he flashes back to one of his darkest moments, back to when the real Peter was 11, back to when he says he was raped by his drunken father.
What are you doing, you little...
If you were to put a picture in your mind of the most horrible and brutal thing that you can imagine, you're probably not too far from it. And it ended with my father telling me if I ever repeated any of this, that he would kill me.
A year later, Wade's father killed himself. Wade was the first to discover the body.
Well, there's my father hanging from a rope, dead, with a half-empty bottle of scotch underneath his feet. That was my legacy.
Making the film, says Wade, is more than just his attempt at redemption. He says he wants it to reach out to troubled kids.
I wanted to make a movie for lots of reasons, but I wanted to make this movie because it's a mission to bring something positive to a horrible situation.
You know, a lot of people have lousy childhoods. A lot of people have abusive childhoods.
Yeah.
Most of them don't end up killing someone. Are you using the abuse you say you had in your childhood to excuse all that came after?
The way I look at it is, when I got on those railroad tracks, it was all me, and it was all my fault. But why was I out there is sort of what the movie addresses.
Action!
But the lofty goal of making a film to help troubled children has not helped the children of the victim, the family of Jack Duffy.
There's nothing you can do to stop somebody from making a movie, but when I heard some of the details that were in it, yeah, it's devastating this family all over again.
Jack and his sister Joanne are 2 of 6 Duffy children. They were in their 20s when their father was killed. Jack Duffy shares not just his father's name, but also his profession. He, too, is a train engineer. They were shocked when they read about the making of the film in a local newspaper, and they questioned Peter Wade's motives.
A message to teens would be, at 15, you can murder somebody, and then 20 years later, you can be successful. I think it's the absolute wrong message to teens.
I would have rather have read in the 2-page spread on a Sunday morning when we discovered this that he had opened some housing for troubled teens, something good, not something self-serving.
I'm not trying to profit off the death of their father. I'm trying to bring some meaning to it all. Trying to say, well, maybe there was a reason, maybe something good came of it.
In fact, this week, Peter Wade told us he's decided to donate any profits the film makes to a trust fund that will be offered to Jack Duffy's family, or to a charity that helps children. And although Wade dedicated his film to the memory of Jack Duffy, Peter admits he has never met Duffy's family, and he's never apologized to them either.
Why not? Why haven't you apologized?
You know, to be honest with you, I don't think I have the courage to do it. I don't think I have the courage to sit in front of them and say these things to them.
You could very well die, live your life and die without having resolved this.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's the hardest thing to live with. I'm really only making this to bring some meaning to a lot of suffering, some that I caused and some that I experienced.